for the first, until you just admit like, okay, I made mistakes. Because I never celebrated. In my heart after a win, I'm always like, oh, but what happens when I lose now? I just grew up like in an environment where like failure wasn't an option. She didn't fail. She had no option. I would ask, why do you think you deserve to be unhappy, but you don't deserve to be happy? Ooh, I'm not quite sure I know how to answer that one.
As you know, we use this platform to share stories of resilience. And today I have a very special guest. Hey, it's Sally Allen again, your host for the Sally Allen podcast. We're so excited to be here with you today to bring you one of our favorites, Mr. Jordan Leavitt, Monkey King, MMA fighter. He was on last year, and he's probably the second person I brought back since we've been here because I just love his story. I love his heart. I just love how he presents himself. I love what he stands for. And the reason we're bringing him back is because we want to talk a little bit mindset with him. He has been undefeated for 6 years. 6 years. Jordan?
Yeah, when I started my fight career, I went undefeated for the first 6 years.
For 6 years. And in November was when that record was broken. And I wanted to talk to him about that and hear his heart and have him share a little bit with us. So with that, Jordan, welcome to the Sally Allen podcast.
I'm glad to be back on the Sally Allen podcast. I'm in rare company, one of only two to be a returning guest, and I'm pretty stoked about that,
Wait.
Glad you guys liked me, I guess.
Before we start, you have to see his shoes. Wait, it's extravagantly what, Chase?
Extravagantly magnificent.
It is extravagantly magnificent. Look at that.
I'm going to zoom in, okay?
It's zoom in. Extravagantly magnificent. I mean, you can't find anything more magnificent than that, another pair of shoes. Thank
Christmas
you for
present
wearing
for my
it.
wife. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you liked it. I never buy myself clothes, so Christmas is like either books or clothes. So I'm always excited to wear the things I got for the holidays.
And something exciting just happened in November also. You got a new baby.
Yeah, November was all ups and downs.
Ups and downs.
Life's a roller coaster. I lose the fight, and then the baby comes, and it's. I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm still sad about the loss, obviously, but It's kind of hard to dwell on that when you got a new bouncing baby, and I'm happier about that than I am sad about the loss. So life's good. 2023 was a good year.
Yes. But Jordan, talk to us a little bit about that. One of the reasons you've gotten a lot of traction on my podcast page because of your heart and the way you shared about how much you care about the fights and the other, your opponent, how much you care about that. But talk to us about this loss. After being undefeated for 6 years, do you think sometimes we take for granted that we have not, you get used to winning?
So I think I might actually have like a weirder perspective because like when I first started my career and like I was undefeated for the first 6 years, I didn't lose until like 2020. And then it's very rare for me to lose. But like every time like another win would kind of pile on top of that streak, it actually would be like give me so much more anxiety. And it's like the whole, I'm a fraud, like I'm just getting lucky. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, how am I getting lucky? 11 fights, 12 fights, 13 fights in a row. Like for me, I never took credit for my victories. I was always like, I just won because my opponent did something stupid, not because I'm good. But when I lost my first fight and I bounced back from when I lost that, I had my first loss and I bounced back from that. That's when I finally was like giving myself a little bit of credit. Like, okay, I'm not lucky, I'm good. My opponents aren't just lucky. It's not gambling. It's a skill-based thing, and sometimes you just lose to the better person.
Wow. So for the first few years, what I'm hearing you say is that you suffer from imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah, I still suffer from imposter syndrome. I'm like, I'm never gonna make it to the UFC. I made it to the UFC. I'm like, I'm never gonna belong in the UFC. And then I win a few fights, and then I'm never gonna bounce back from a loss. And then I do bounce back from a loss, and it's back and forth. I'm never going to stay there. I'm never going to have a legacy. I'm never going to do anything. and then it happens, you know. So good thing my mind doesn't control exactly what happens to me. It's my actions. It's my actions that control what happens to me, and then there's a tiny bit of luck, very little of it.
Yeah, maybe Austin was right. You do need an executive mindset coach in your corner.
I have a spiritual advisor in my corner. You know, sometimes you just need a little bit extra.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, 'cause we're all head cases in different ways, and
yeah.
I feel like I'm healthy about everything else in my life, except for my job. So right. You know, a lot of us hate our job too. So I can relate to a lot of people with that. You know.
I don't think you hate your job though.
Oh, I don't. I only hate it when I lose, and that's only for a little bit of time.
Yeah. So, talk to me about your mindset coming out of that fight.
So at first, like, most fighters will agree with me, like, you lose a fight, and you're like, I'm never doing this again. I can't go out there and lose again. It's embarrassing. That was the first fight since I've been to the UFC that my wife and my mom were able to see it. And like, so you see all these lines, all these things like lining up. It's perfect. Like God's setting you up for a home run. Like I had a baby due 2 weeks after the fight. My wife and mom were there to watch me. I liked my opponent. I really liked the matchup. And then you just go out there and lose. And you're driving back home and you're angry, but you're trying not to be angry because, you know, like my wife's already having like the pre-labor pain. So I'm like, oh, don't go into labor on the day I lose my fight. It'll be such a long day. And I'm trying to like be positive with the car ride home, but you just want to cry.
Yeah.
You just want to cry. You just want to like throw something, but you got to keep a happy face because I'm still like the head of my household, and you got to like exude at least some level of confidence and positivity. So like at first it was all negatives, and then I watch the fight and I see the positive things I do, and I just have to take notes. I got to write down what I did and what I didn't do, and what I'm happy with and what I'm not happy with. And I think one thing that's healthy in the fight game is not viewing like every fight like as the fight is the end point. I'm not trying to like, I mean, you want to win fights, but like I have this like overarching goal of success. Mm-hmm. It's not like a limited like 8-week thing I'm trying to accomplish. I'm trying to have like a career, a legacy, a life. And sometimes losses are going to happen along the way for that. So I think I just kind of got to expand my mindset because I get to decide what this loss means to me. It could mean that it's a downward spiral, I'm never going to come back up. Yeah. Or it could mean like it's just a little bit of a plateau for me to reach some higher ground. And that's what I'm choosing to see in my losses. I want it to, it's something to catapult me forward eventually.
Let's go a little deeper. Take me in the cage with you. You're fighting. How many minutes did the fight last before you lost?
Only 2.5 minutes. It was short. Okay. Neither of us were even sweating. You know, like no hard breathing after the fight. Took no damage. Like we clashed heads a little bit. That's all that happened.
Right. And then what happened? You realize after 2 minutes it's over. What's going through your head? Take me to the cage with you.
Oh, it was just so embarrassed. I was like, what just happened? You know, and then like you're talking to your opponent, and like my opponent Chase Hooper, I love this kid. Okay, I've been a fan of him as a fighter. Like we weren't like friends, but every time we'd see each other, we were very friendly. We had a similar style, similar like fan base, and so I was really excited to fight him because I was like, oh, all positive vibes going into a fight. But you don't want to have all positive vibes going to a fight. You want to have a little bit of animosity, a little bit of viciousness,
a little edge going in, right?
So we're all being polite to each other, and then as soon as he wins, he's like, I know Jordan has a baby on the way, but so do I. I want to announce that I do too. So I can't be angry at the guy. He's going through exactly what I'm going through. And I'm just like, if I would have known he would have plot armor for the fight, I wouldn't have taken it, you know? So
what was the move that won the fight?
Rear naked choke. I fell back I broke one of my rules. I gave up position to go for a submission, and then he reversed it. And yeah, it was a really slick transition. Like I watched it. I was like, oh, that's really cool. I'm going to do that to somebody one day. But yeah, rear naked choke.
Rear naked choke. Mm-hmm. What does that look like? Explain to me.
It's just like where you vice their neck between your forearm and your elbow, and you lock it up, and then you squeeze. It's the most high percentage like submission in the sport because once you're locked in, it's generally hard to escape. Yeah. And I never get caught in that because it's also one of the first moves you learn. But he caught me in the transition, so I couldn't defend it. And I was like, I don't think that would have ever happened if it wasn't that exact sequence. Yeah. But yeah, you know, sometimes you get caught in things.
I love how you're talking about Chase Hooper. You're not afraid to show so much admiration for him.
I mean, if I thought less of him, it makes me look kind of worse. You know, I like to think very positively of all the people I fight. Whether you beat me or you lose to me, I want you to have a really successful career afterwards.
Yeah.
Because like I want people to succeed.
Yeah,
you know, and like when you fight someone, there's like a connection there, and it's just something different. They're like your battle brother. As weird, as like melodramatic as that sounds. But like, if they beat me, I want them to be successful because I lost to someone that's really successful.
Yeah, yeah.
If I beat them, then like I want them to be successful. It makes you look better. Also, as a little selfish note, but like, there's so many mixed feelings when you fight someone.
Yeah, yeah. So so that happened, and then how many weeks later did you go into another fight?
Oh, still haven't had another fight yet.
Oh, you haven't had another fight yet.
I'm just sitting on this loss for a little bit, like dwelling and stewing in my failure. But I'm excited for it.
I don't consider it a failure. Do you consider it a failure? I don't think you do. That's a misuse of that word, right? You didn't talk to me about that.
I don't, you know, like objectively from the outside looking in, extrinsically, it's a failure. But like internally, like mentally undefeated, emotionally undefeated. Like I don't really see it as like I'm not like failing. I'm falling forward.
Yes,
like
that's right.
When you're sprinting, when you're running, when you're walking, it's all just a controlled fall. I get to choose like what that stumble means. And I think the stumble is just bringing me momentum. And I'm going to learn from, you know, that loss. I'm going to turn it into another success. It's just, I'm investing in myself. And sometimes stocks go up and down, and that's just what's going to happen.
It's such a great mindset because a lot of people don't understand what the term failing forward means. Like they just look at it like people think as failing as a bad thing. And I feel like it builds character and it builds you up for the next time that you do something. I teach a lot of people like it's okay to fail forward because it's part of life experience, right? It teaches you something. It humbles you at times too, right? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, like I always tell people like after, because everyone always wants to like console you after a fight.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they're like, oh, don't worry, you'll get him next time. I'm like, oh, there's not gonna be a next time, and that's okay. You know, like I.
What do you mean in terms of what? There's not going to be a next time fighting Chase?
Like,
or?
I'm not going to fight him under the same circumstances.
Yeah,
you know, even if we rematch, he still wins the first one. You know, so for me, it's like I truly believe if you have the right mindset, you'll fall uphill, and I'm falling uphill. I'm failing upwards. Like I fall forward. Like one extrinsic loss doesn't matter as long as it mentally. You don't like let it metastasize and turn into like a tumorous type of like entity in your mindset.
Right.
You know, I get to choose that it's like fuel. I get to choose what that baggage means to me. And I'm seeing it as a positive. I see it as a way to improve. When you win a fight, it's hard to know how to improve.
That's right. That's right.
You're doing a great job. It's hard to know what's happening. But when you do like a bad job in front of your wife and your mom and the unborn baby and paychecks cut in half, and everyone's saying, "Oh, you suck! You should never be a fighter. Go back to law school." I got a lot to work on.
Wait, did people say that to you?
Oh, all the time. You know, everyone wants to fight the fighter, just not in a fight. You know,
right.
They're all like using their little thumbs, little digits to like talk crap. He should go to law school. I told you he's never gonna like do anything in the UFC. Like, ignore the fact that I got my third contract. I've been there for several years.
Yeah.
People always love to like kick you when you're down. I mean, I should say weak people always want to kick you when you're down.
And, you know, and those people that are kicking you when you're down, they're not the one in any arenas. It's a man in the arena. You heard that saying by Brené Brown. It's a man in the arena that really counts because he's putting himself out there. And he's going out there and he's showing up. And regardless of what happens, the key is that he showed up. And the people that are kicking you down, they know nothing about that, about showing up. So when you're being kicked down, just remember that. I'm the man in the arena, right? Physically, I'm the man in the cage out there. And I am showing up every time. And I'm entertaining all you people out there. So great mentality, great mindset that you have. I love that. You're not letting them bring you down. But what are you doing? Like, you know, how many times are you replaying this fight? And how are you getting your mindset? How are you building back up again?
I constantly rewatch losses until I'm like emotionally disconnected to it.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, because it's gonna hurt your ego for the first until you just admit like, okay, I made mistakes. It's not a reflection of who I am as a person.
Right.
It's a reflection of how I acted in a certain situation.
Yeah.
So I'm rewatching these fights, and I watch it with no sound on. I watch it in black and white. I'm always watching it. I'm always studying my losses. I don't watch my wins too often because that inflates the ego. It makes you feel really good to like watch your wins. And luckily, I have a lot more wins than losses. But I always watch my losses because I know those build into like later victories. And I just get so excited watching my losses. I know how much improvements I get when I lose. I always come back better. And yeah, I'm just super excited what this loss means. I know it's going to work out for good.
But don't you think when you watch your wins, it has the same effect that you know what to do at the same time because you won because of this, so you can improve that and win because of that the next time?
You'd think so, but I still think I'm a fraud. I'm like, that's not me. That's just lucky Jordan. He won that time. Whenever I lose, that's me. I 100% take ownership of my losses. My wins, I'm like, they don't exist to me. They're not important anymore because I feel like so many fighters, so many people, like in so many aspects of life, they hold on to these successes, and then that becomes their identity. Like their identity is in the past. My identity is in the future. My identity is moving forward, and me personally, I don't gain too much from focusing on my successes because I need to keep my ego in check because my ego will destroy me, and it destroys a lot of people.
But okay. Your little girl grows up and she's winning all these matches and all these fights. Do you encourage her to celebrate?
I think I would encourage her to celebrate because I never celebrated like growing up. I celebrate because like it gets everyone likes me when I do my splits and stuff, you know. But like in my heart after a win, I'm always like, oh, but what happens when I lose now?
Yeah,
now
but you wouldn't want her
higher.
to think like that.
I don't. I would love to see like my daughter have like successes and be happy about it. And I just gotta get to the point in my life where I could have a success and be like, this is good. This is a good thing I should have. I'm happy. I'm proud about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be a healthy point to get to.
Yeah. So let's talk about how you get there, Jordan. How do we get you there so where you can celebrate your successes and where you can be happy and you can take a moment and just be in it, which is okay because you're in this loss and you're still in it. You're still watching. But how do we get you to a place where you can be happy about your wins? What would it take? And I said that for your daughter because I wanted to show you perspective. I want you to look in a mirror before you answer this question. So go back now. How would you set that example?
I think when you brought up my daughter, it's like I want them to take ownership of their positive things. And like I said, like I take ownership of my losses. I should take ownership of my wins too.
Yes.
Because it's not the fraud. That is actually me that does these positive things. I don't just happen to fall into successes. Right. And that's true. And I just have to believe that. I objectively know that's right, you know? I just have to get to the point where
So it's here, but it's not here yet.
It's like...
Or it's here, it's not here yet.
It's here, but I just don't feel it.
You don't feel it.
You know? And I think it'll be a very good time. I think I'll be at a very good point, like mentally, emotionally, when I'm able to take ownership of the positive things. Because I'm always like, I'm just so lucky. I'm just so blessed. And I am lucky and I am blessed. Even when I have my wife, I don't deserve my wife. She's way better than me. I don't deserve to be happy. I don't deserve my beautiful children. I don't deserve my house. But then whenever a bad thing happens, I'm like, oh, but I deserve this.
You know, sometimes it comes back. I had my last guest and we were talking about this, and it comes back from sometimes generational traumas and things we've gone through, and the lack of self-confidence and the lack of belief in ourselves. And one of the things we talked about is the lack of compassion for ourselves. Because I'm hearing that you don't have compassion for Jordan.
Oh, no. I don't think I do. Talk about...
Where does that come from?
Speaking of generational stuff, but I think I just grew up like in an environment where like failure wasn't an option. Mm. Like my mom had me right before she turned 20, and she got pregnant right at the end of high school. And I was a week old, and she adopted my older sister, who was 5. So my mom had like no familial support, no man in the picture, and she had a 5-year-old and a newborn. Yeah. And she didn't fail. You know, she'd had no option to like fail. So I grew up And I was always comparing myself to my mom and being like, oh my gosh, I'm not as strong. I'm not as much a go-getter as my mom. I fail all the time. She never fails, you know. And now I grow up and I realize my mom made a lot of mistakes, failed a lot of times. But I just think I've always had such a unhealthy like relationship to failure growing up.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I'm like too positive about failures, you know. Like I need to have positive. I need to have a good mindset about my successes and about the good things.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What would you say to somebody who's sharing this with you? And somebody sharing like, I can't even embrace my success. It's so hard for me. It's easier. I'm comfortable in the failure zone or with what I feel to be failure. I'm so comfortable. It's my comfort zone. And I don't know how to get out of that comfort zone. What would you say to them? How would you get them out of that comfort zone?
I would ask, why do you think you deserve to be unhappy, but you don't deserve to be happy?
Okay.
And then I would say, I like this exercise. And then I would say, like, all the positive things as well as the negatives, you earned those things and you worked towards those things. And so you should be happy. You should be willing. You have the right to dwell on those positive things, is what I would say. Yeah.
And then how can they, that is really good coaching, by the way. How can they, and now I'm going to ask you, Jordan, how do you recommend that I dwell on the positive? Because I know how to dwell on the negative. How do I dwell on a positive?
How do I dwell on a positive? Ooh, I'm not quite sure I know how to answer that one. I would say if you want to dwell on the positive, I would just try to separate it first. You know, like put all these negative things into a box over here and put a wall, put a blinder up, put the curtain behind it. And then just all you have left behind is the positives. And just ask yourself, like, are you happy with your life right now?
Uh-huh.
And if you are, it's like, it's because of these positives. You know, these negatives brought you to these positives.
Right.
And, or maybe even just saying, like, just viewing these negatives, like flipping them upside down. These are just positives. These are just potential positives. And then these are positives that worked out. I guess that's how I would.
No, that was very good.
It.
That's in my head. That was so good. That was so key to what you said, because that's what you can do. Right? You're telling, that's why I'm doing this exercise with you, because that's what you can do, because what you can look at it as circumstances that are happening in life instead of looking at negative and positive. Just life is happening to you. Sometimes it happens differently. Sometimes it happens in a way that you don't like, and then sometimes it happens in a way that you like. For you, you like the negative and you don't embrace the positive. But if you look at it from a holistic perspective and not separated negative and positive, but just look at circumstances that are happening in life, perhaps you'll be able to embrace both. What do you think?
I actually really like that. And I'm going to liken it to like reading a story. Okay. When you're reading a book, there's highs and there's lows.
Yes.
There's the night, like the dark, it's always darkest before the dawn.
Yes.
And then you're feeling all these emotions going through the journey. And then you finish the book and you close it. It's like, I can decide what that story meant to me.
Yes.
And you could see, it's like you could understand it looking back, but like moving forward or experiencing it, it's like, oh, this feels bad. But as soon as you pass it, it's like, it's probably not as bad as I thought it was.
Yes, there you go. You looked at your whole life as from a beginning to the ending of a book. I love that. And now, okay, so it takes though, when we are celebrating life, regardless of if the high and the lows, I love that, the high and the lows, we have to look to celebrate all of it. So what are you doing to celebrate your positives or the lows, which is really weird? How could you celebrate the positives in your life, the lows? How can you celebrate some of those?
I think just maybe letting me, when positive things are happening, instead of looking at myself in an ungracious light and being like, oh, look at how lucky you are to have all these positive things despite how many mistakes you make. Be like, oh, look what you earned because of all the good things you did and what you've accomplished. And I think that's a pretty good distinction I should probably make with myself.
Was that uncomfortable to say?
A little bit. It was a little uncomfortable, but, I love negative experiences. I love negative feelings.
It's a bit uncomfortable. But it is, and what it does is, and I'm sorry, people are going to hear this again because we just talked about it. It changes your neural pathways and how you think because you're changing your thinking pattern and you're changing your mindset. Say, oh, I am going to embrace this win. And if you do practical things to embrace it, it's even better. I'm going to go out and do something that I don't normally do, for example. And I don't know what you do to celebrate, but I'm going to have a big bowl of ice cream, something I don't normally do because I'm fit and I want to stay fit. What would that look like for you?
It's so funny you mentioned that. I'd never celebrate. I'd never have after party. I never do anything.
I sense that. Yeah. You never celebrate your wins. I thought it, but I still can't believe it when you say that to me.
Yeah, I always just go home and, we'll have dinner. My wife sometimes will make a cheesecake if I ask her to, but I don't even feel like asking for it. Because one time she made the victory thing and I lost and I was like, I don't want to eat this cheesecake, how good it is.
Okay. So how about we do this? This is your job, and whether it ebbs and flow, we'll say ebbs and flow, you find something that you go out and you celebrate. So then you're not looking at a yes or no or a win or loss. You're just looking like every time I do this, every time I get in the cage, when I come out, I'm going to go celebrate. What would that look like for you? What would be celebration? For you, you do it with your family, but for you, what does that look like as you're driving home? Where can you stop? What can you do? How can you celebrate you?
I would probably want to go to Barnes & Noble. I would probably want to buy a bunch of books because I never buy anything for myself. I don't buy clothes. I don't buy books.
Do you like books?
I love books. I never feel like it's right for me to buy them because I'm like, oh, what about the next paycheck? Why am I spending money doing something? I could go to the library. I could wait for this book, I think one thing I would like to do just after a fight, regardless of win or loss, just go to the Barnes & Nobles, buy some books.
Which Barnes & Nobles you'll go to?
The one on, I think it's near Charleston, Charleston Fort Apache.
Okay, it's still there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so your audience are listening to this. He's going to celebrate by going to Barnes & Noble and buy a couple of books. Right? Yeah. I know that. That's uncomfortable, I can tell.
That is uncomfortable. I think that would be good. I think I deserve it. Books aren't too much. Yeah, I think I can celebrate doing that.
That's right. And I think you would encourage other people too, regardless of your win and loss. Talk to us how you would encourage somebody regardless of it now that you're walking into this new thing in your life.
I always tell people to celebrate the fights, which is, I need to start following what I tell people, but I'm always saying, the fight is the reward. Yes. The result just happens, but the fight is the reward. How many times in your life are you going to get to fight, and have consequences tied to it and have that pressure? You earn all that pressure, you earn all those negatives and positive feelings. It doesn't matter if you lost, you deserve to go out there and celebrate the fact that you got to experience that, that event.
Yeah.
Because I know when I'm older and I can't fight, I'll be like, oh gosh, I wish I could even just go out there and lose again. Because nothing's like it.
I love how you talk about it with such pride that you absolutely love what you do. And you also talk, when you talk about it, the word that comes to my mind is that you see it as a privilege that you get to do that. Because you're absolutely right. Not everybody gets to do that, what you are doing and the way you're doing it. So that's pretty awesome. I didn't think this was going to turn into a coaching session, but it just organically went that way. So yeah. All right. So when is your next fight?
Hoping for May or early June. That way I have enough time to prepare the household with the newborn because I'm still not sleeping too well. But as soon as the baby starts producing their own melatonin, they can sleep through the night. I'm ready.
You're ready.
I'm ready to do that.
Okay. So it's good. You're taking time. What are you doing in the meantime to prepare yourself mentally and physically?
I started going to sports psychologist for the first time. Good. And that's weird for me because you got to talk to somebody about what you're feeling, and I don't really do that. But
I can see that. This was hard for you.
I'm sorry. Sorry for the viewers. I'm a little awkward when it comes to this, but I'm going to start doing that, and I'm just trying to spend more time being present. I don't hold my phone when I'm at home anymore. I just put it on the counter, and then I'll check it before bed. I always keep it away off my person. That way I could be more present. And it's been really nice. I've been definitely seeing the the emotional like dividends paying off. I'm way happier and way more present. And so just
you
trying
don't
to
have
be
to
more
read
present.
those negative comments.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how to see them. It's weird, like, you see positive comments, and you're like, oh, that's nice. See a negative comment, and I dwell on it forever. Like, I have so many fans that just leave such nice things. I don't remember their names. But I know when I see a hater's name. I don't block them. I see it, and I'm just like, oh, this is, whatever, 64. I'm like, I hate that guy, but I can't let him know he would. I just need to focus on
every single time you'll get 200 negative comments, positive comments, and you get one, even half of a negative comment. And you remember John's name and you don't remember one person from the 200.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why is that?
I think it's just humans, we like evolved to focus on negatives. That keeps you alive.
Oh yeah, we do. We do. We love focusing on a negative instead of a positive. But I just love that you put your phone away. Do you respond to those?
No.
Good for you. I just love that you don't. I usually do delete and block. You don't deserve to be in my social media if you're going to do that. I don't care who you are. Delete, block. I've done it so many times. I don't get caught up in that. It just does something to you. Yeah. So good. What do you want to tell our audience? What do you want them to hear? Is there anything I haven't asked you or talk about?
Oh no, this didn't go exactly how I anticipated it.
Wait, how did you anticipate it would go like the last time?
I don't know. I was expecting to be more comfortable, more eloquent. I hate to be asked a question. I'm like, I don't know what to say about that. I have to go into my soul and think about that. But
that's what coaches do. They let you go deep down in your soul of souls. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an uncomfortable experience, but like losses and like negative things, you learn from being in discomfort. Like, you don't grow when all your focus, like, you don't grow when you don't confront those negative things. So.
That's right. I like to say to people, nothing grows in comfort zones, right? You just sit there and it's just stagnant. And if you're not growing, then I usually say you're decaying, because some people say, oh, you're stagnant and you stay there. No. You're actually decaying because you forget what you learned. So when you're growing, that's a positive thing. So it's good to get out of that comfort zone. Thanks for indulging in me and letting me pull you a little bit out of your comfort zone.
It was fun.
It was fun. You're like, I'm never, ever appearing on our podcast again.
I won't be the guest that comes back a third time.
You never know. You might come back a third time. So do you have any takeaway for our audience?
I think it's very important that if you're to say that you deserve to take ownership of the good as well as the bad in your life.
Yeah.
And life just happens, and you get to attribute that meaning to whatever happens to you, and you get to decide how that's going to feel you or how that's going to be a detriment to you. And anything can be viewed as a positive as long as you look at it from a specific angle, and you get to choose what that means to you.
Wow, that was powerful. I like that a lot. I like that. And I don't have much to add to that than to say perspectives are important. You get to choose what perspective you look at a situation from. And when you realize the power that you have to choose that perspective, then you can keep it positive instead of negative. And with that, friends, it's a wrap.